Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Seed to Play channel. My name is Brooke, and today we are planting my back fence with blackberries. So we're going to talk about the different varieties that I'm planting. We're going to talk about how I'm planting them. We're going to talk about why I'm putting them where and all the good stuff. So if you've never been here, my name is Brooke. We do all things urban and suburban gardening here. I am currently establishing my new backyard home garden with the house that we just purchased after I have been renting and community gardening and balcony gardening for years and years and years. So that's my elevator speech, and let's get started. Okay, y'all, so I am in Central Texas. We're in zone 8B. Blackberries grow very well here. They just do really well here. You can grow them almost anywhere, and so I've been collecting blackberries for a couple of years through like friends that give me plants and things like that. So let's just start first thing first. So let's talk about the kinds of blackberries you can get. You can get blackberries with thorns. That's why I think a lot of people, that's how they think of blackberries, as being really thorny plants. Or you can get thornless blackberries. Now, just a thing to note, a lot of plants that have thorns like blackberries are doing it to protect the fruit from birds. So just something to note, you might have to protect your blackberry bushes a little bit if they are thornless, but I also prefer to get thornless because we have dogs, and I don't know, that's what I would prefer to do. Things like blackberry bushes are perennial, so that means they're going to come back year after year and get stronger and stronger. They do require a little bit of maintenance. You have to prune back the canes of the blackberries, but it's really not that bad for the yield that you can get out of a very small amount of plants. And one of the reasons I actually wanted to grow blackberries in the first place was not only to increase my fruit production here at my home garden, but also because when I gardened at my community garden, we had the most successful blackberry bushes that had been along the fence for probably 10 years. And there was a woman who took care of all the berry vines. Her name was Mary, and she would actually make jam for the whole entire garden, blackberry jam, every single year. And it was just one of those things that like you get like a little hint of nostalgia, and so that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to grow blackberries. The other thing is, we don't grow berries very easily here where I'm at because of the humidity. Strawberries don't do very well here, raspberries don't do very well here, so blackberries is really one of the only berries that we can really successfully grow in this area. Okay, so let's talk about blackberry varieties. So there's lots of different varieties of blackberries, just like any other berry, and you really want to look at what you're zoned for, what you're wanting out of your blackberries, if you want thornless or you want ones with thorns in them. All of that's really up to your discretion. Like I said, I choose thornless because that's just what I choose. So there's a couple different ways you can get your blackberries. You can get them just from the garden center, which is like these. So this blackberry is called Natchez. I probably just butchered that. This one, from the research I've done on it, this variety was released in 2007, and a lot of berries are going to be kind of cross-pollinated and all that good stuff, and it's mostly to select for things that you want out of a berry bush, like really big juicy fruit or things like that. So this one, the description on the pot says, released in 2007 with large firm berries on a plant with high yields, large-sized fruit with superior quality flavor, erect, self-supporting, thornless, ripens early June, hardy to 13 degrees Fahrenheit, full sun, twice the yield of most other varieties. So these are all just things to consider when you're looking at blackberry plants. So I only have one of these, and again, this is the Natchez thornless. And also, this is my plug to try and support your local garden centers if you can, if you have a good one. These blackberry plants are from the Great Outdoors in Austin. One of my favorite ones, another good one in Austin, Texas, is the Natural Gardener. That's kind of getting your plants from the garden center. Now, if you know anybody that has blackberry bushes, hit them up and see if they have some that you can root. So there's a couple different ways to do this. Also, say hi to Cooper. He's doing his patrols. So if you have any kind of garden friends that already have blackberry bushes, it's worth seeing if they have any runners or anything that they can dig up and give you, because blackberry bushes and other berry bushes will send out runners underground, and you kind of have to dig them up and manage them. So if somebody already has established blackberry plants, you can probably really kind of take advantage of that. And so here is one. This is a Ponca blackberry, and this was given to me as a bareroot by a garden friend in just that situation where, you know, their blackberry plants were kind of going nuts and they needed to dig some up and get rid of some. And so he sent me these. And so I have 3 Ponca blackberries, and again, these are from bare roots that I literally stuck in the ground and in the soil, and they grew. So I've had this one for 2 years, and it's time to finally put it in the ground. It's actually starting to try and make berries, which is really fun. So blackberries and berries in general are going to be plants that you really want to not think of as an immediate yield. They're going to take a couple years to get established. So this is another fairly popular variety, and it's called the Uachita, something. But the description for this one is matures June 10th for 5 weeks, large, sweet, firm berries, minimum 300 chill hours, great for Central Texas, superior quality, less tart than other thornless cultivars, self-supporting thornless, good storage, hardy to 13 degrees Fahrenheit. So something else to think about for your berry bushes is some of them will have chill hour requirements similar to fruiting trees. So just make sure you're selecting the right one for your zone, and all of that information is super easily identifiable on the internet. So one of the reasons I chose today to plant is because we have had a ton of rain. So where I live, we have very clay soil, very heavy clay. So one of the reasons I chose today to plant is because in the last 2 days, we have had 3.5 inches of rain. When you have heavy clay soil, taking advantage of when your ground is really wet is prime. The other thing I've discovered about this area and our soil is that it can be fairly rocky. So a couple of tools that I grabbed just a normal shovel, but then I also grabbed like a small pitchfork to like try and yank out the little rocks because man, I tried to dig some of these holes dry. I'm just about to take your freaking back out. I did buy some handheld augers to kind of help me along, but I don't want to use them yet. I want to see how the ground is first. Now, when it comes to preparing your planting hole, I read a lot of things, I'll put it that way. And what I've decided to do is just plant directly in the ground, no compost, no amendments, no nothing, and see how they do. I also consulted some of my old garden friends from the community garden about planting blackberry bushes. And sometimes I think you can always find good sage advice on the internet that's backed by science, but at the same time, I put just as much weight into people's lived experience. And so a lot of them just told me they dug a hole and put it in the ground. And so that's what I'm gonna do, because honestly, we have wild blackberries in parts of Texas and parts of Central Texas. And so these plants should do totally fine in the ground, just growing. So that's kind of my rationale on that whole situation. Now, for something like my citrus trees over here, I'm definitely putting citrus fertilizer in the bottom of those holes because citrus isn't necessarily like wild growing here in Texas. It takes a little more TLC. But part of the reason I picked blackberries to plant along the back fence was because they didn't require that much maintenance. All right, y'all. Now, I'm just gonna plant one for you because I don't think there's much I can teach you about digging a hole, but let's do it. So I actually already had a hole dug for one that I couldn't get deep enough, but it's perfect for this small one. So when you take your berries out of their pots, you want to try and grab it at the base, like really grab it at the base, and then I try and just dump them out like this. So I have a nice little plant tag. And I always too look at the roots of the plants that I ended up getting. So the roots look pretty good. They haven't gotten down to the bottom of the pot yet, so it doesn't look like we're super root bound. And honestly, I try and get off some of the extra dirt if I don't have to have it. But like also, see that root? That's really where the roots are. So some of the finer roots have gotten down to the bottom, but those big roots haven't quite yet. So whenever you're planting, you want to make sure that your plant sits down in the hole. And that was something I kind of messed up on some of my trees. And then you just want to like fill in the best you can. And there we go. Now, see, I told you things were gonna get muddy. So that's how you want to plant your blackberries that are coming in your traditional nursery pots. Now let's dig up one of the ones that I rooted from a bare root this fall. That's this guy. And number one, I want to see what the roots look like, but number two, I just kind of want to see what I'm working with here. I put this in this grow bag probably in like October of last year, and those are all the roots that it's grown since. And it's got these little shoots coming up too to put off new little canes. So bare root plants are typically going to be a little cheaper, but you are going to need more time with your bare root plants. So the way that you want to plant these is very similar. You're going to dig a little bit of a shallower hole, but you want to make sure it's deep enough. So I want to show you. Okay, so you still want your plant to be flush with the top of the ground, but you don't want it to be buried too deep. So you want to just be able to set your berry plant down gently and have it just kind of set in there. So I'll fill back in this hole, and then actually this will be good dirt to kind of fill in, because this is going to kind of sink in a little bit. So we'll just kind of fill in around some of these holes. And honestly, then you're done. You just got to keep them watered, but also blackberries do really well in the South because they're pretty drought tolerant. So don't overlove your blackberries, but just keep an eye on them. Now, last thing, I'm gonna show you what a bare root plant looks like that's like not crushing it. This bare root, not crushing it. However, it's showing some signs of life down on the base. So I'm still gonna plant it here. It just might have had an issue transitioning. That one was doing really, really well until we brought it to the new house, where we get way, way, way more sun. So I think it's just kind of struggling. And that is planting blackberries. Certainly not rocket science, but a very fun thing to do to add some edible fruit to your landscape. So if you like this video, hit subscribe, come back, like it, leave a comment, let the algorithm gods bring you back, because we're building our backyard urban gardenstead, and there's going to be a lot more content to come. So thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening. We'll see you next time.